What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Who Wants to Brawl YouTube channel. That is not a question, that is a statement. My name is Who, and I'm letting you know I want to brawl. Here, we're all about the Magic format Brawl, specifically in regards to Magic Arena, so we don't have to worry about budget, we only have to worry about wildcards.
This episode is a new deck tech. On these episodes, I go over a new Brawl commander and walk you through my ideas and strategies of how best to build this commander.
Today's deck tech is going to be Calix, Destiny's Hand. This is the first Planeswalker I've done as a commander, and it is a white-green enchantment deck. It enters with 4 loyalty and has a +1 that we can look at the top 4 cards of our library, reveal an enchantment card from among them, put it in our hand, and put the rest on the bottom of our library in a random order. It also has an ability to turn all of our enchantments into an Oblivion Ring by exiling a creature or enchantment an opponent controls until an enchantment we control leaves the battlefield. And then its ultimate is for -7, return all enchantment cards from our graveyard to the battlefield. Our first strategy is going to be do nothing enchantments. Calix's second ability exiles a creature an opponent controls until an enchantment we control leaves the battlefield. So we don't want to use a powerful enchantment as to make it an even bigger target than it already will be.
So for some do-nothing enchantments, we have our 2 shrines, Sanctum of Tranquil Light or Fruitful Harvest. The light lets us tap down a creature for 5 mana, not very efficient. We don't end up using it very often. It's just there to sit on the board and use for Calix's second ability. We do get a little bit more use out of the green enchantment. It helps us ramp a little bit, but still, it's a perfect candidate for Calix's second ability. And then the Omen of the Sun and Omen of the Hunt each enter the battlefield, do their thing, and then just sit on the battlefield waiting to be sacrificed to Scry 2. But if we use them for Calix's second ability, we're probably not going to sacrifice them. And then In Search of Greatness is a complicated enchantment that reads much better than it plays. So for most of the time, it's just going to sit there doing nothing but scrying 1 at the beginning of our upkeep. And every once in a while, we're going to hit it just right where we can play a spell for free, but it doesn't happen too often, at least not anywhere near as often as I thought it would, making this a great enchantment to just sit there and wait for Calix's second ability.
Our next strategy is going to be removal. It may not be the most exciting topic, but it is essential, and it is definitely going to help us get that win.
Bound in Gold, Kenrith's Transformation, and Nahiri's Binding are each auras that deal with our opponent's creatures in their own different ways. Bound in Gold and Nahiri's Binding make sure they can't attack or block and their active abilities can't be activated. It's also worth noting that you can put these on your opponent's planeswalkers and it shuts them down, their activated abilities can't be activated. So when your opponent is playing a planeswalker commander, these essentially just take them completely out of the game. They can't recast them, they can't get them back, they can't use them. They're pretty much done for the game unless they can remove these enchantments. And then Kenrith's Transformation turns any creature into a no ability 3/3 creature. It makes them so they're just sitting there with no abilities and they're kind of a dud. And then Warbriar Blessing lets one of our creatures fight a creature an opponent controls, and it also helps our creature win by giving it +0/+2. Doomscar is just one of the best board wipes in all of Brawl. We can foretell it on turn 2, then play it on a later turn for only 3 mana, helping us to rebuild afterwards or play an enchantment instead of a creature so our enchantment doesn't get removed and their creatures get removed. And then speaking of removing enchantments, for those that watch my channel, you know that I pump the tires heavily on Wilt. It's a great card, and here we have it again. And then Banishing Light is a great card in our deck. It exiles a creature when it enters the battlefield until it leaves the battlefield. So we can hit it with Calix's first ability. Then if we exile a token or our opponent's commander, and they decide to put their commander back into the command zone, this enchantment is just sitting there doing absolutely nothing.
Our next strategy is going to be utility pieces. These are cards that don't necessarily fit the theme of our deck, but help it run smooth nonetheless.
Willow Haven might be the best ramp spell in our deck, specifically for our deck, because it's an enchantment that we can exile a creature with Calix's ability under, and it's also a 2 mana ramp, which means on turn 3 when we hit our land, we can play Calix and get it out a turn early. We can also get Calix out a turn early if we play Tangled Florahedron as a creature. It taps to add a green for 2 mana. We can also play it as a land if we need it. And speaking of lands, Lotus Cobra just gives us mana whenever a land enters the battlefield. Lotus Cobra really doesn't need much explanation, it's just a great card to have in just about any green deck. Dryad of the Elysian Grove is a 3 mana creature that lets us play an additional land each turn, helping us ramp out a little bit, especially if we flooded, we can get way ahead. It also fixes our mana by making all of them tap for any color, but that doesn't come up too often in our deck. And then we have Arcane Signet, which is just a Brawl staple, 2 mana artifact that taps to add 1 mana of any color in our commander's color identity. Sure, obviously. And then Cultivate is just another Brawl staple. Really a multi-format staple, but it searches our library for 2 lands, puts 1 on the battlefield, 1 into our hand. Always like a ramp spell that replaces itself. And then Elysian Caridid is just a 2 mana creature that helps us ramp on turn 2, helping us hit Calix on turn 3. Archon of Sun's Grace, Nessian Wanderer, and Citizen Champion are each great creatures that have the mechanic Constellation, which means whenever an enchantment enters the battlefield, it triggers. In the Archon's case, it pumps out a 2/2 creature and gives those creatures lifelink as long as the Archon's on the board. Nessian Wanderer gives us a land off the top 3 cards of our library, and the Champion draws us a card. And then Idyllic Tutor can go search up any enchantment we need at any moment. This is a great lifeline as a just in case when things really hit the fan. Bronze-Hide Lion is just a 2 mana 3/3, but then it comes back as an aura when it dies, and it gives itself or the creature indestructible that it's enchanting. Elder Gargaroth is just a great beat-face creature, something to give our deck a little bit more of a punch. It's a 5 mana 6/6 with Vigilance, Reach, and Trample that also has attack and blocks triggers. Questing Beast is just one of the best deals for your mana in all of Brawl. It's going to attack as soon as it comes on the battlefield. It makes sure it doesn't get chump block, and it's going to take out any big creature that happens to block it. Hopefully the creature is small enough that our Questing Beast survives as well. And then most decks in Brawl run Snowlands, and Raidane makes sure they come in tapped, even if they're basic lands, giving us that little bit of extra time we need to pull ahead.
And finally, we're going to talk about the exciting part of our deck, the enchantments. This is an enchantment-based deck, so these are the primary cards that we built our deck around, and these are the cards that you're probably here for.
Alseid of Life's Bounty is a great way to protect our creatures and enchantments. We can give them protection from any color until end of turn for 1 mana. And then Daxos, Blessed by the Sun, is a great enchantment creature. High toughness, great blocker for when they try to attack Calix. Destiny Spinner ensures that our creatures and enchantment spells can't be countered. Most of what we cast is one of those 2 things. So this is a great card, especially in a mono blue heavy meta that all they want to do, it seems, is counter your spells. This is perfect. And Eidolon of Obstruction is a nice way to set our opponents back just slightly when they're running a Planeswalker as a commander. And then we have Elspeth Conquers Death, which is a great removal spell, and then we can get use out of each and every single one of its chapters, making this a great card. Felidar Retreat is arguably the best win condition in the deck that we have. Every time a land enters the battlefield, we get a 2/2 creature, or we pump our entire board and give it Vigilance. Overall, just a great card to have in our deck. And then Sentinel Eyes is just an efficient aura that keeps coming back, making it a great target for Calix's second ability. And then speaking of great targets for Calix's second ability, Heliod and Nylea are each indestructible enchantments, making them perfect for Calix's second ability. It doesn't hurt that they each do great things on their own, making them an absolute auto-include for any deck that involves Calix.
And finally, we're going to round it out with some land.
We're going to count Balaged Recovery as a land in this deck because we're going to play as a land more often than not. It enters the battlefield with tap and taps for a green. Command Tower enters the battlefield untapped and taps to add 1 mana of any color in our commander's color identity. And Branchloft Pathway can enter the battlefield as either a land that taps for green or a land that taps for white. Fabled Passage and Evolving Wild are both fetch lands. while the land we get with Fabled Passage enters the battlefield untapped if we control 4 or more lands. Arctic Treeline is just a forest plains that enters the battlefield tapped, and Temple of Plenty taps to add a green or white, enters the battlefield tapped, and when it enters the battlefield, we scry 1. And then we finish off the deck with 9 snow-covered plains and 8 snow-covered forests. So that is my initial deck on Calix Destiny's Hand. Would you change something? Would you keep it exactly as is? Do you think this is a good commander or not? Let me know in the comments below. I'm curious to know what you think. And that does it for this video. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe. Share with a friend to help the channel grow. Hit that bell icon to make sure you get notifications about new videos to make sure you don't miss anything. I also want to give a shout out to my buddy Rob Slota for making the Who Wants to Brawl logo. He is a tattoo artist, and you can check out his Instagram by following the link in the show notes below. You can email me at whowantstobrawl@gmail.com. My Twitter is @brawlwho. I also stream on Magic Arena at twitch.tv/whowantstobrawl. Check me out on Sundays at 11 in the morning, where I stream last week or next week's deck tech. On Mondays, I stream random decks. Sometimes I do Brawl, sometimes I'll even throw in a draft. I also stream a random day of the week, or at least I try to. This is Random Games. Follow me on Twitter, and I'll let you know when I'm going to play ahead of time and what I'm going to play ahead of time. But for now, this is Who letting you know I no longer want to brawl. Take it easy, everyone. Bye.